What's up? This is Carlos Cruz of Warbringer, and we're here at West Valley Studios where we recorded our new album, Weapons of Tomorrow. Myself, KiFF, and Adam are here to give you a track-by-track breakdown of the music and lyrics of our new record.
Each of these songs really came about in its own unique way. And on this video, we wanted to take you not just behind the actual material on the record, but behind our process and how we wrote it and how we work as a band. We're always very meticulous, and we really want to give the listener a whole lot to sink their teeth into so they can listen to this album over and over again. And this video is behind our process on each one of these 10 songs.
So on this new album, we're taking a step further into the evolution of Warbringer musically. And after coming off the Woe to the Vanquished album, we have branched out to territories that we no longer fear, which has opened up new elements of what we can pull off in this album, which I think is going to blow you away.
So the idea for this and the closing song both came from the same trip that I was on during the Woe to the Vanquished tour, actually. My wife and I, we went to the Belgian town of Ypres, which used to be a World War I battleground, and I had a lot of thoughts while I was there. And one of them that I had was just how deadly machines and weaponry was over a century ago. The original Maxim gun from 1897 could put out 600 rounds a minute, and that's that long ago. So what the kind of thought that implied to me is, it's been so long since then, where are we now and what's next? And that's where I kind of got the whole theme for the album title and this track. The title specifically comes from something that a French general, Pétain, said before the First World War began. And he said, firepower kills. What did he mean by that? What he meant is that machines are so strong right now and so deadly that human bravery and heroism doesn't mean what it used to. And we already crossed that line over a century ago. Where are we heading tomorrow? That's kind of the core concept of the record, and that's where it came from. So to actually bring this idea about, I had the existing chorus lines, the end of the song, and some of the other lines in my head, and I also heard a few riffs. And so I had a very specific idea of how I wanted this to go, and the real idea was to start with a simple thrash riff and to have it evolve, kind of like it starts out like a rattly old machine gun, and by the end of the song, the riff's a jet fighter or guided drone or something really modern or futuristic. To make this happen, we wanted to take this really simple riff and kind of have it evolve or tech up throughout the song. So this was the idea from the get-go. Now, how am I going to bring this about, though? The only problem is I don't play guitar.
So KiFF comes at me with this idea for a thrash metal song about evolving weaponry. He's got a title, it's called Firepower Kills. He's got the verse written, he's got the chorus written, he had this outro refrain written, but no music. So I asked him, well, how do you hear the riff? So what he does have is rhythm patterns anyway. So it was my task to take those rhythms and write riffs accordingly, so kind of write riffs underneath the lyrics and the vocal ideas he has. And we've worked like that before. We did that on the song Silhouettes on the last album. So he literally starts freaking out, straight Beavis and Butthead, just mouthing the riffs to this tune. So then I have to write music accordingly.
This is actually how we wrote these riffs. Dun 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 dun. How firepower kills. And the end part went bam, bam, ba-na, ba-na, na, na, na.
So now that we have the bulk idea for this song, it turns out to be a very more traditional, like 85 old school thrash metal number. And again, the music and the lyrics have to like coexist together. So in his mind, if the lyrics are going to tech up, so does the riff. So we have the, clunky machine gun, old school way that the riff is played, and then throughout the song you'll hear that it techs up and becomes more like today's modern drones.
So I've known John 15 odd years, and his mouth riffing has been a thing of the past. Actually, when I started playing drums for Warbringer back in the day, the intro for Total War was a thing that he had said, you know, big, long tom fill. So I did quads, it worked. And then, you know, we use it again for the second, third, fourth, fifth album. We still use it to this day, whether he has to hum a rhythm section or he finds a couple notes or simple drumming on his knees. He gets it across to us and we make a riff out of it.
At the end of the song, we repeat the album title a lot. We'll build a brighter future with the weapons of tomorrow. So this is sort of the title track, and it really contains the album's theme. One thing a lot of Warbringer songs do structurally is after we finish our main verse-chorus part, we'll go into an entirely new riff and take the ending of the song somewhere else, and we did that here too. We got that repeating phrase, we'll build a brighter future with the weapons of tomorrow, but I managed to put a bit of a sinister wordplay with a double meaning on the word bright, and I really love to do that whenever I can. It gives it this sense like it's a slick and evil commercial for the military-industrial complex or something, and I really like writing evil kind of from its own perspective.
So this song came about just another night in my studio, riffing away. I knew I wanted something a little more direct, something similar to Remain Violent, but not that meat and potatoes kind of brick to the face. I wanted something a little different, a little more musical, a little more intricate, maybe a little bit more melodic. So I came up with this core riff. Cool vibes. It kind of reminded me of late 80s, early 90s Slayer in the riff style. So it was different. So I had the main riff, and then the rest of the song I just created variants of that main riff, whether it was different tails, different harmonies, different key changes, what have you. So again, there's just gonna be that main riff, so consequently the working title for this song was Riff Man.
So Carlos shows me this demo called Riff Man, and I really like it. It's beefy, it's mean, it's catchy, I think. The only problem is I get serious writer's block on this. I thought the title Riff Man was pretty funny, so the first line that comes to my head was, "I am the Riff Man, you like riffs." And that's pretty stupid. So I couldn't use that, and I had to come up with something else, but I couldn't hear anything else but Riff Man every time I put the track on. So I had to get around that somehow and kind of jostle my own thinking out of writer's block. So one thing I latched onto in the riffs Carlos gave me is this kind of clandestine or sneaky, sinister feel. So I wanted the lyrics to reflect that. I happened to be reading this book, The Sleepwalkers, which among other things talks about the Franz Ferdinand assassination. And the organization behind that, they got the coolest name for a terrorist organization. They're called the Black Hand commonly. The Black Hand themselves aren't the ones who did the assassination. They got these three other people, among which was a 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, to actually pull the trigger, shoot the Archduke, and start the war. I thought this was really interesting because it's like the organization itself is using these young people as a pawn to carry out their will. And so I wanted to write the song from the angle of like the shadow order telling the agent what they're gonna do.
So when my solo for Black Hand reaches out, I had some big shoes to fill because I was coming after Chase's solo, which is about a minute and a half of just awesome shreddery. Different styles, of course, but while sitting here, I had time to work it out. I hadn't written it yet, but I had the time in the studio to take about a half hour to an hour. Wrote it, filled up the gap, and it breaks up real nice, and I think it complements the song really well. And another cool thing about it is when we did the video, which we'd never done before, we had actually acted. So Carlos, John, and myself got to dress up as the conspirators and portray a really cool little bit of acting scene, which you'll see in the music video. And I got to tap into my inner assassin role.
Working title for this number is Death Trash, coming from just death thrash. You know, late 80s, early 90s, extreme thrash metal hybrid mixed with death metal. Some of our favorite influences like Demolition Hammer or Devastation. Core influences on this song, for sure. So I ended up coming up with this really heavy riff that became the core of all the song, and I built the rest of the song around it. So it goes something like this.
So on this one, unlike Black Hand, when I got the riffs from Carlos, I knew pretty much exactly what I was gonna do with it. That main lurching riff just really put a certain image in my mind, which is that of a tank kind of rolling over a mountain of skulls. Some very good old death metal feelings there. I like it, a good starting point. So instead of having a literal tank rolling over fragile humans, I was thinking, what if that's a metaphor for kind of what's going on in the world and society? Yeah, you know, kind of unstoppable forward technological progress, and how when something's invented, people don't say, what's it gonna do? They just make it, and everyone has to deal with the consequences. You know, like AI, automation, mass labor force displacement, mass surveillance societies, all of that wonderful stuff that we all have to live with now, that puts the future into uncertainty. So I kind of made it a thing about strong, futuristic, powerful machines versus weak humans. And that fit the theme of the record really well. And also that word crush really just sounds like a crushing riff. So I liked it on that level as well. And it gives me a good excuse to go rush at the end of the song.
So John comes back to me with the lyrics he now has and the concept of this whole song. And my original demo had this outro riff that was fast, didn't really fit the music, so we dropped it. So we took the main riff, put it at the end, and literally just that. We wanted to create the visual of a tank just fucking rolling over anything in its path, just off into the distance.